Hi, welcome everybody to this prestigious RTS event. No Laughing Matter. How does comedy fight back? Let's start with you, Jessica, because you actually create this stuff.
I'm glad you've undermined the whole concept before we started, because I was sort of feeling the same way when I was invited to discuss the failure of comedy on the RTS panel, and I was trying not to be offended by that.
Good.
You know, who better to ask?
Yeah. I think it's harder to make good mainstream sitcom than a kind of edgy, you know, more kind of challenging sitcom.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, well, I would say that, wouldn't I? But no, I genuinely do. I think we are sitting here and saying, oh, you know, maybe comedy doesn't need to fight back. But I do think comedy has been its own worst enemy to a certain extent. And we've got very good at making the alternative, edgy comedy, and there's great stuff being made. But we have neglected the real mainstream stuff, I think, over the years.
We used to be known as the home of alternative comedy, but alternative comedy is on BBC One now. So sort of that has now gone, and, you know, there are no taboos left. Everyone's done everything. So we're constantly trying now to reinvent what is the alternative, and so we kind of trailblaze and try and do different things. We back new talent, and we take risks in different ways. We have got a track record of being, you know, we break talent, and, you know, they go on to Hollywood and they go on to the BBC and to Sky and wherever, and we're very proud of that track record.
Clearly there's, on BBC Three, for example, it's much more about finding new talent and giving a place for new talent to flourish. Obviously, given the proliferation of channels and other platforms, there's actually more comedy around than ever before.
We're celebrating, you know, the Jessica sitcom got to Series 3, which is great, but it's a shame that Series 3 is considered, you know, such a rarity. That if you get the show right, there is a huge audience for comedy, and it doesn't just have to be baking or dancing or singing that can deliver those audiences to the channels.
I think the shows that have the hardest reception and hardest to find are shows that are, you know, trying to kind of like make you laugh all the time, like those kind of like big appeal, mass appeal shows. They're difficult to innovate.
As a commissioning editor, particularly if you work for a commercial broadcaster, your job is to minimise risk. You know, we need all our shows to do well, but actually the best shows are the ones where you trust the talent.
No other genre gets that sort of criticism. And we've seen tweets, whoever commissioned this should be killed. You know, and you just think, oh, that's nice. Would you do that to a director, somebody in, like, documentaries, if you didn't enjoy that documentary? It's sort of...
I was asked when we were kind of before this, the panel started, about online and BBC Three going online. I know a lot of the comedy community are angry and worried about, you know, that there's this whole world of supporting new talent that seemingly might go. What's your feeling around that?
Well, if we had the choice, then we'd probably still prefer the channel to exist as it does now. But it's really about the quality of the work. I think, like, the work, you know, like, great quality work will find its audience.
I feel like it's a door closing. It's an opportunity that's sailing away from me personally. I mean, because I feel like BBC Three is exactly the sort of channel that I would write for, and I think I found it difficult enough to get an audience on E4.
Obviously, I'm very sad that it's had to move like that, and I'm sure, you know, they wouldn't do it unless they had to. So, you know, any opportunity in this comedy industry is a good one, because it makes the whole thing flourish and everybody sort of benefits from it. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll probably have more things than we probably would have been pitched before, but again, you know, it's got to be right for us.
It's about, I guess, the context, like iPlayer or 4OD or whatever. I think people tend to search for genre rather than, well, in our case, in channel. So I think, you know, people would go into that looking for a comedy. And so it's a question then of, like, how strong channel identities are.
What my question is aimed at is that there does seem to be almost like a sort of a tirade, an assault on comedy, where people sort of say, I'm offended.
If you empower a writer to write what they want to write, and they can go as wild as they want, you can always row back and go, okay, these are where we're going to get into trouble, you know, with Ofcom. If it's within a show and it's authored and it's a late night show where people know what to expect, it's a Channel 4 show, I think there are, you know, expectations that there's a defence there because of that.
And in my experience, offence is caused when audiences are taken by surprise. It's something they weren't expecting, and that causes offence. So we can help because we know what our audiences are looking for and can cope with. So we know where the line can be drawn.
I think there's always a really interesting snapshot is the Christmas schedule when you sort of like
Yes,
look at you know, like what are the shows and the kinds of shows that an audience want to actually sit down on that most important day when they've probably got family around and all that stuff. And the sitcom specials have done incredibly well still over the last couple of years. The biggest rated shows that we've had, Mrs. Brown's Boys, Miranda, outnumbered. The Royal Family specials are incredibly durable, and that kind of really shows that, you know, like that it's got a central sort of part in national sort of psyche and viewing habits.
I just want to thank the panel, Neris, Simon, Jessica and Gregor for being brilliant, being honest and open.